Back on the home screen, we can see that adjusting faders 1, 2, and 3 make adjustments to the mix track in the same way traditional faders do on a flat panel mixer. Now, one of the best reasons to mix or record with the Diva is that we can record not only our mix track, but also each audio source on independent tracks. This reduces retakes for audio when there is no time for rehearsals on set and is especially useful for post-production during editing. Let's route each of our microphones to their own tracks without respect to the Diva's faders. Return to the disc mix and make sure that the bottom row now reads analog in and pre-fader. Place a white A connecting input 1 to disc track 2. Any audio fed to analog input 1 will now be sent to record track 2 without respect to the Diva's faders. Continue routing pre-fader microphones by placing a white A connecting input 2 to disc track 3 and input 3 to disc track 4. Return to the home screen and note that the faders control the inputs on their way to disc track 1, but not on their way to disc tracks 2, 3, and 4. This is all the routing necessary to record a mono mix track with 3 analog microphone sources. It is possible to route digital and analog inputs to the same disc track. For example, to add a digital source to our mix, connect it to the AES 1 and 2 input. Go to the disc mix. Make sure the bottom row says digital and post fader. Then press the box connecting input 1 to disc track 1. Note that a black D appears in addition to the A. These routings are independent of one another and can be pre- or post-fader. Let's remove the D before continuing. The output mix is identical to the disc mix, except that it routes inputs to output buses 1 through 8. The output buses are accessible 3 places on the Diva. Output buses 1 through 6 are available via the 25-pin D-sub analog output cable. Output buses 5 and 6 are also available on the 10-pin camera output. All 8 output buses are available on the AES output as 4 output pairs. Outputs from the Fusion 12 and Diva 16 are a little bit different. The D-sub analog output carries output buses 1 through 8, and there are no outputs on the 10-pin connector. It's important to understand that this menu routes inputs to outputs, not disc tracks to outputs. If you wish to route your mix as it appears on track 1 on the home screen, simply duplicate the settings for that track in the output mix. Let's route a split stereo mix to the camera output. First, choose analog and post fader. Then, press the box connecting input 1 to output bus 5. This routes the audio connected to input 1 to the left side of the camera 10-pin out. Place 2 black A's connecting inputs 2 and 3 to output 6. This will send the other 2 audio signals out to the right side of the camera output. Press Menu, then Faders. 4 virtual faders labeled 9, 10, 11, and 12 will appear. By default, these faders control the levels for analog inputs 5, 6, 7, and 8. You may only adjust one of them at a time. Press Fader Assign to bring up the fader routing matrix. This menu routes inputs to faders. By default, input 1 is routed to fader 1, 2 to 2, 3 to 3, and 4 to 4. This is good for our 4-track over-the-shoulder setup. We can create a master fader by choosing Analog In on the bottom row and placing black A's connecting inputs 1, 2, and 3 to fader 4. When we turn fader 4 counterclockwise, all audio signals are attenuated proportionally. In this matrix, the top row is the left headphone and the bottom row is the right headphone. Each column represents a disc track. Press the X connecting disc track 2 to headphone R to unassign it. Next, press the box connecting track 1 and headphone R. Now our mono mix is routed to both ears. You are now ready to route audio into and out of the Diva. Once you've mastered this concept, you won't be repatching cables as often. Happy virtual routing!